Hello, everyone. Apologies if that was a little bit of a hiccup. It's 4 a.m. in the morning here in Australia, so I'm still trying to figure out whether I'm awake or asleep. But welcome to the webinar today. And today Ships and I are here, and we'd love to sort of chat with all of you here on how we're investing in multi-tenancy this year, including how we'd like to sort of help you manage your tenants in scale by introducing a couple of new improvements that we're bringing to the multi-tenancy feature here at Octopus. And namely, those two improvements are a new bulk action to help you manage all of your tenants, as well as improve Tentacle resiliency for when your tenants are in a low or poor network scenario or situation. Before that, I think a couple of introductions are in order. So I'll start off first. So hey, for those that haven't met me yet, my name is Ian. I'm a senior product manager here at Octopus. I've been here since 2022, so it's been just over a year, 5 months. And I currently live in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. I'll hand it over to Ships for her introduction.
Thanks, Ian. Hi, everyone. I'm Ships. I've been an Octonaut for almost 2 years now, and I hail from Auckland, New Zealand, the home of Lord of the Rings. Back to you, Ian.
Nice. Thanks, Ships. Awesome. So this is just a little bit of an agenda of what we're going to be covering off today. So we will do a little bit of an intro into multi-tenancy in Octopus. It'll be a quick one, about 5 minutes, just talking about how Octopus sees multi-tenancy, as well as the benefits that you can get from using multi-tenanted deployments in Octopus. And I will sort of dive into the features, where I'll first be presenting the new bulk actions that we've just introduced in the 23.3 version to help you manage your tenants at scale. And then Ships will take over the presentation after that to talk about the improved Tentacle resiliency. And we'll finish off with just a quick summary of how these features help you with multi-tenanted deployments, and to answer any questions that might arise from our presentation. So let's get into it. So what is multi-tenancy? It's a term that's obviously used quite a lot, but here at Octopus, we look at it in a very specific way. And if you do want to know more information about it, or something that's a little bit more in depth than the 5-minute TLDR that I might be doing in this webinar, we actually have had previous webinars where we've talked about this in a lot of detail. So here you can see that there's a webinar on the left-hand side, which is where I chatted about the redesigned tenant overview dashboard that we released earlier this year. In there, we do go into quite a lot of detail in terms of, what multi-tenancy is, how it works, what are the different scenarios in which you might be looking to use tenants in Octopus, or if you're new to Octopus, why you might be considering setting up a multi-tenanted environment. So I do recommend that you watch that webinar if you'd like to know a little bit more detail than what I'm about to present. We've also got a couple of other sources where you can learn more about multi-tenancy on our octopus.com homepage as well. So here you could have a couple of case studies where you can learn some of our customers that are using multi-tenancy, and the benefits that they get in terms of the time saved, or the speed of deployments in which they're able to just deploy to all their tenants. As well as having a white paper on our website, which sort of details, it might answer all of the questions that you might have about multi-tenanted deployments and more. So just wanted to point out those resources that we do have, just to sort of help you learn more, or, if it's just easy reading, just sort of understand how Octopus sees multi-tenancy and how that can benefit you and your team and your company as well. Cool, but without further ado, let's all jump into what multi-tenancy is in Octopus. So generally speaking, multi-tenancy in Octopus allows you to scale a single deployment process to hundreds or even thousands of different tenants. You can define your deployment process just once, and it can be used as many times as you want to deploy to all of your related tenants. And what this does is that this makes your deployment configuration at scale easy and simple for your team, and allows you to replicate your deployment processes with little to no fuss at the same time. And this is because a tenant is a predefined group of application hosts. So examples of what tenants can be in Octopus include retail stores, health devices. So for example, if you're pushing software to MRI machines or X-ray machines and stuff like that. Branch offices. So these are physical branch offices that you might have, and they might all have either different pieces of software or the same software just tweaked for different offices, and you're able to just define that process once and push it out to all of your branches immediately. Your customer infrastructure. So this is in particular if you're running sort of a SaaS business or PaaS business where you've got clients or customers that use your software, and each of them require just a little bit of a tweak between each other. And using multi-tenancy, you're able to define the deployment process and use variables to essentially make a couple of changes for each of your customers pretty easily within Octopus and with no fuss within Octopus as well. Or you need to deploy to an isolated cloud infrastructure per customer, or maybe it's a different cloud region or variety of different legal reasons. Tenants in Octopus can also represent data centers. So for example, a data center is located in Salt Lake City, and another one is located in Austin, Texas, and another is located in Brisbane, Australia. Then each of them will have slightly different configurations, but generally the process just needs to be the same. Or last but not least, they can also be an isolated testing lab in which you might be deploying to physical hardware, and they need to be able to support a variety of different hardware configurations. So there's a testing lab that represents the different configurations. Awesome. So here are a couple of the benefits of using multi-tenancy in Octopus. So firstly is that you're able to release across environments. So you're able to manage tenanted deployments how it best suits you. Deploy to one tenant, some or all of them, or specific release rings based on defined tenant tags in Octopus. Again, as mentioned, you're able to define a single deployment process. So defining one deployment process, and just based off of that, you're able to actually seamlessly connect it to either side of your deployment pipeline and use it for as many customers or locations as you need. And using Octopus, you're able to actually manage each tenant's unique processes, customizations, and features using, again, tenant tags and variables in Octopus. Other than that, you're also able to configure variables for each tenant in Octopus. So you're able to define your variable values like database connection strings or API keys. They're different for each tenant that are connected in your project in Octopus. You're able to also create tenants that perform routine tasks with ease because you are able to pair up your multi-tenancy instance with our runbooks feature, which can help you automate your tenant creation and tenant management, as well as your infrastructure provisioning whenever needed. You're able to solve managed backups, database maintenance, and service failover and restoration work with one click using our runbooks feature. And finally, Octopus makes it very easy for you to actually monitor your tenanted deployment. So using our new tenant overview dashboard that we released earlier this year, you're able to know where your releases are regardless of your multi-tenancy strategy. And using the dashboard, you're able to see key information about your tenants at a glance, like the projects they belong to, the assigned tags and environments for each of these tenants. So I've gone at length in terms of the benefits and what multi-tenancy is in Octopus, but what I wanted to also highlight is that we've really invested heavily in the multi-tenancy experience at Octopus over the last couple of months in order to realize some of all of the benefits that we've just mentioned in the last couple of slides. And the best thing is that we're not done yet. So today we're really proud to chat about two new features that are coming to multi-tenancy in Octopus to highlight the continuous investment that we are making in this feature in Octopus for a lot of our key customers. And the two new features, as mentioned on the slides, is namely that, firstly, we're bringing a new bulk action to help manage tenants at scale, primarily helping customers attach multiple tenants to a project simply, quickly, and efficiently, which I'll go through and I'll show a demo for that as well. And after that, Ships will show a demo and go through improved Tentacle resiliency for tenants as well, especially in low or poor network connection scenarios. Awesome. So without further ado, let's jump into what we're here for, which are the demos of the new features. So the first up is new bulk actions to manage tenants at scale. So why did we decide to do this? So just for context, it's not new in Octopus that you're able to connect a project to a tenant or tenant to project, however that you view the relationship between those two connections. And previously what you'd have is that in order to connect a tenant to a project, you'd actually have to go into the tenants page, select the tenant that you want connected to a project. And as you can see from this screenshot of the old experience, you essentially hit the connect project button on the top right-hand corner of the screen right there. And this little dialog appears and you select the project, you select the environments, and you add the connection. What were the issues with that? Because this was a one-to-one connection. So you could only add one project to the tenant at a time. So when it came to scaling the use of Octopus or scaling the number of tenants that you wanted to onboard onto Octopus, that started to become quite an issue in terms of how long folks were taking or how much time folks were actually taking to actually connect their tenants to a project. So imagine if, for example, you started off, new in Octopus and you're like, hey, I already have maybe 10 or 20 tenants with one project and I want to be able to connect them all. And using the old experience, you basically be, clicking and, getting out of this window and going back into this window, getting out of this window again, basically 20 times trying to connect all of your tenants to a project. Similarly, even if you already have existing tenants and let's say you onboarded new ones. So for example, maybe in that SaaS scenario, you got customers, and if you onboarded 10 new customers that you need to attach to an existing project, which is a product that you're actually releasing. Again, that's a lot of admin work, sort of like going into the UI and sort of just connecting one by one. And, either you develop very impressive index finger muscles, or you get carpal tunnel from the amount of clicking that you have to do in order to connect all of your tenants to a project. So we're really cognizant of that, and we want to really make sure that your onboarding experience, as well as your experience of managing those tenant and project connections, are not only easy to do, but you're able to also easily do them at a scale and at a level where we're seeing some of our customers having, 1,000 tenants, 5,000 tenants, even 10,000 tenants sometimes. And imagine having to connect, if you have a new project and you're trying to connect 10,000 tenants to that new project, you're definitely going to be losing some fingers as a result. So that's why we decided, hey, there's a new bulk action, and we're going to help you connect a project to multiple tenants in just one workflow instead of multiple different steps. So it's a feature that's available in Octopus 23.3 server version, and it's also rolling out to all of our cloud instances as we speak. And here are a couple of highlights of what you can expect from the new feature, which is, firstly, there's a new tenants page in the project view, which I'll show you in the demo. There's a wizard style format that helps you go through the workflow of attaching a project to multiple tenants. So it sort of gives you guardrails and guides you through, step by step, what are the things that are needed, how do you search for your tenants, how do you attach your environments that you want to, and just sort of just walks you through that whole workflow pretty seamlessly. As mentioned, we also give you the ability to select all or some of your tenants to connect to a project, as well as select all or some of the environments of that project that you want associated with the tenant as well. And finally, at the end, we also have a way of indicating, how long the connection is going to be taking. I'm quite happy to say the connection takes really quickly. It's quite fast as well, but I'll try not to indict myself by making any promises of the number of seconds it'll take. But it is quite fast to complete the connection. And we have a way to sort of show you the progress of that as well. Awesome. So without further ado, it's demo time. So I will move over to the modeling skill instance. Yep, sorry. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute, and then I'll reshare my screen. Please bear with me. Oops. Sorry, just give me a quick second. Sorry about that. Awesome. Can everyone see that on the screen now without our faces going to infinity mode? There we go. Awesome. Cool. All right. So here we go. Demo time. So I'm just going to be demoing quickly the new project to multiple tenants connection. So what you see here is the projects view in Octopus. And this is a project where we already have about 10 tenants connected. And as mentioned, as well as a part of this new feature, we've actually released a new page, a new tenants page that you can access here. And on this tenants page, it actually lists out all of the tenants that are connected to this project already, as well as all the environments that are associated with that tenant that are connected to this project at the moment. And what you can do is that, for example, as mentioned, let's say this project is a product that you have, and you're suddenly, hey, we're going to onboard another maybe 5 tenants or another 20 tenants. And again, previously you had to actually go into each of those tenants one by one in order to effect that connection. But instead, what we've done now is that when you hit connect tenants, you'll be brought to this wizard workflow screen. So as you can see here, what we've done is that we've listed out all the tenants on this left-hand side. You're able to see that, in your whole sort of space, there are 257 tenants here. And you're able to add or connect tenants to the project simply by, for example, if you already see the tenants that you want here, you can just sort of click this row and it immediately starts to select those tenants that need to be connected to the project. Or alternatively, if you would like to actually connect all 257 tenants to this project, you can just simply click that, and all 257 tenants will be connected here. So there's no limit to the number of tenants that you can connect to a project. There's just 257 here because there's only 257 tenants for this demo instance. But we don't have a hard limit in terms of how many tenants you're able to actually push through as that bulk action. Other things that I do want to highlight here is that we do have filters for you to filter down to tenants that you want to via their tenant tags that you want to catch in. So these filters are similar to the rules-based filters that we've just pushed out earlier this year for the new tenant overview dashboard as well. So here, as you can see, that we have an inclusionary as well as an exclusionary filter here. So you can actually search for customers that are in a particular tag. So for example, Beringer, which obviously none of them here have it. None of them here have Anderson Inc. either. Is there one that I can find that has a particular tag? Yes, there is. Cool. Sweet. So as you can see, once I select a tag, it will say, it will sort of filter down to all the tenants that have that tag. But it's smart enough to know that, for example, I filtered down to all the tenants with this tag, but it says here all available tenants have already been selected. So that means that all available tenants that had this tag have already actually been connected to this project. So we sort of like give you that context whenever you're trying to filter by a certain tenant tag, which is good. And as you can see, you can actually exclude some tenants as well. So for example, it's not in Beringer Inc. And that immediately excluded tenants from the results. So for example, here you see 254 results. If you remember, it was 273. So we've basically excluded 20 tenants from the list based off what you're filtering as well. So let's just say you want to sort of connect 20 as mentioned. So I'm just going to select a random 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. And we can hit next. And here, what you can do is that essentially you can do one of two things in terms of assigning environments to your tenants. So what you can do is whether you assign all of the available environments, which means that sort of selects all of the environments that are associated with the project, or if, for example, you're just connecting test tenants to the project, or you're just connecting purely production tenants to the project, you can just select production, and all of the tenants will immediately be given the production environment, or all of the tenants will immediately be given the test environment, for example. So you can see that we actually, give you this sort of fine-tuning control in terms of the type of environments and the number of environments that you want connected to these tenants. But let's say you want to assign all the available environments because you can, and that's how you've set up your instance. So once you've done that, you're able to sort of review here that, yep, these are the tenants I want connected, and these are all the environments that I want to associate with those tenants. And once you're happy, you can just hit connect. And as you can see, we bring you a little progress bar here to sort of show you, how long it's taking. As you can see, that's, it's sort of connected 10 tenants in as I'm speaking, and now it's connected 20 tenants. So now you've got 30 tenants in this project. Pretty simple, pretty efficient, pretty low fuss, and it's sort of got you through all of that in a really easy and simple and quick wizard style sort of overview and a workflow as well. So yeah, that's the new bulk action for multi-tenancy. The other two small things I want to highlight on this page before I give it over to Ships for her demo is that we've also included an add blank tenant and clone an existing tenant function as part of this tenants page. So what this means is that here, you're able to actually create a new tenant. So for example, I'll just say demo 1. And what this does is that this new tenant will then be connected to this project. So you can actually create a tenant straight from this page. Yep, and as you can see, it's already been connected to project 2. Or what you can do is that you can actually clone an existing tenant. And what this does is that it clones an existing tenant that's already connected to this project. So let's say there's a tenant that you want to copy, some or most of its configuration, and you don't necessarily need to change too much of it. You can just sort of clone it from the existing list that's connected to the project. So for example, maybe I want to clone Brown Cockatoo, and the clone tenant's name is called Demo2 clone. hit save. And yeah, there you go. It's cloned the tenant, and it's actually got all of the existing projects that it's actually been connected to, which was the brown cockatoo tenant, and copied that over. It also copied over the tenant tags that are associated with that clone tenant as well. So yeah, so that is the new bolt action and some of the new capabilities that we've brought to the projects view via the new tenants tab. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand it over to Ships for her demo.
Thanks, Ian. That was amazing. All right. Give me a minute, and I'll bring up the screen. Sweet. Can everyone see my screen? Great. Thumbs up emoji. Perfect. Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you a sneak preview of a new feature we're working on, which improves Tentacle resiliency. So remember earlier we saw examples of what tenants can include. For this particular new feature, we're solving an important problem for deploying to tenants that are devices in a physical location. So some examples of that are tablets in a retail store, machines at clinics or hospitals, or physical servers at a branch office. In such scenarios, for physical devices, they can be on an unstable network connection. And so when deploying to these devices, and they're on this flaky, unstable connection, the deployments to tenants can fail due to this, due to the network. So when this happens today in Octopus, the overall deployment fails. Users have to spend time to identify the failed deployment tasks from the logs, perform a manual rerun, targeting all the specific tentacles and tenants that have faced this particular problem. And this can be very tedious, especially across thousands of tentacles and hundreds of tenants. This problem we know today actually accounts for around about 2 to 3% of our failed tenanted deployments for some of our customers. And in most cases, it's really just a matter of waiting for a few seconds for the tentacle to come back through to the network, really. So our new feature will allow Octopus to recover from such situations where there has been a communication failure due to the network with the tentacle. And so how does it work? It works by waiting for a certain period of time for the tentacle to come back online and receive the message that Octopus server is trying to send it, or receive the message in case of a polling. So as long as the tentacle's network connection is restored within a specified time duration, the deployment will continue. Now, one thing to note is that it does not try to rerun the same script or the same action again on a tentacle. The process is, this feature is idempotent and will only run the process or step once on any given tentacle. This works at the network level, really, to simply attempt sending a message to the tentacle. It works the same for runbooks and health checks as well. So both of your runbook runs and health checks can also incorporate this waiting time. And it also works for polling and listening tentacles. All right, demo time. So let me switch over to my instance. Great, I can see the views switched over. So as you can see, I'm in the infrastructure tab here. And when you navigate to machine policies here, you can check on the default machine policy. And we've added a new section here to say recover from communication errors with Tentacle. Now, this in here, obviously, I'm just using the default machine policy. If you wanted to, you can definitely create a new machine policy and only apply it to a few of your tentacles to test with or to start with. So recovering from, so in here, when you go in there and enable this feature, this will allow Octopus to reattempt that failed communication with the tentacle for a specified duration. So we've kind of split the duration setting in two. One is for critical process and runbooks. So how much time should Octopus wait and continue attempting to communicate with the tentacle before it fails the whole deployment, right? And similar for the health check as well. So you can configure, as you can see, I've set up 30 seconds here for my deployment process and runbook run, but 10 minutes for a health check, which is usually async background process. Cool. All right, so once you've actually enabled it, what I've done is I've kind of pre-done a release here. I've set up a tentacle that always fails because the tentacle itself set up incorrectly. But if you go into your release task logs, you'll be able to see the evidence of this feature working in here. So as you can see with this failed tentacle, it tried to attempt to communicate with the tentacle for up to 30 seconds and logged each attempt there. So you'll be able to see that in the task logs for your deployment process, and similar for the runbooks, obviously. All right. So that was a quick demo of the feature itself. This feature will likely be made available in Octopus 24.1 for all customers. A preview is available now to all our customers on Octopus Cloud. So anyone on Octopus Cloud can go ahead and look into machine policies and enable this. One thing to keep in mind is that it does need the latest version of Tentacle, anything greater than version 7.0 for it to work, since we've made some changes on the Tentacle end for this feature too. And if this feature is really valuable to you and you'd like to receive updates on it, please subscribe to the feature card via the link that John just posted. Once you tap into that, you'll be able to see this feature card here, and at the bottom you can just register your interest by saying how important it is, giving us some feedback and your email address, and then hitting submit, and we'll be able to tell you when this feature is available for your instance. So thank you for listening to me. Really appreciate your time. I'll just leave you with this slide. So if you're interested to finding out how to approach multi-tenancy at scale, reliably and securely, please do go ahead and download a copy of this white paper. It's fresh off the press, and it goes into quite a depth of how we like to think about multi-tenancy at Octopus as well. I'll hand back to John.
Thanks a lot. Great job, guys. I think that deserves a round of emojis for you too. So we've got a few questions here coming in. So Clint asks, does this affect proxy boxes? Does it increase latency? I think Clint's referring to your demo, Ships, where you were talking about machine policies.
No, it doesn't really impact latency. The latency is network dependent. We work on a library on our end, which is independent of the underlying network, but the library kind of sits one level up the actual core connection. But in terms of proxy boxes, it's the same as what it would today. So it depends on how your proxy is configured today, how your listening and polling tentacle connects via that today. So it should work regardless of that setup. So if you've got that set up correctly, it should just work.
Fantastic. Another question that we have is from Marcy. Marcy asks, do you want it to retry the deployment to that tentacle? Is that an option too?
Yeah, great question. So retry a whole deployment, is that correct? I'll interpret it that way.
Okay.
So we don't actually have a retry the whole deployment at the moment. You can go into the failed deployment and click, there's a rerun button there, I think that is possible, but it's not the whole deployment. It's for that particular tactical. Another feature that we released early in the quarter is to retry failed steps. So please have a look at that as well. And what that does is, as your process is running, you can retry a particular step that might have failed for a few attempts. So it can be up to 2 attempts, 3 attempts, 4 attempts, whatever. You can configure that. So that's really good feedback. We'll think about how we can make retrying a whole deployment easier for you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Reyes asks, could you repeat what happens after you recovery from a timeout, does the step timeout on continue? I think this is speaking to step timeouts, that feature that you just cited, Ships.
Yeah, so when you retry a step, it will attempt to retry it up to 3 times. And if something fails, then it just behaves as if the deployment failed, as it won't continue, similar to how it would do today. Yeah, that's for this auto step retry. Sorry, John. And for the feature that I walked through and the demo with the network communication, and if the tentacle just doesn't come back online on the network, that's fine. It will just behave like it's a normal failed deployment. It will just stop deploying to that tentacle, move on to the next one, as it does today. Back to you, John.
It's all good. A little bit of a longer one. We have different types, in quotes, of tenants. Some tenants represent software stacks, while others represent AWS accounts. Projects that use one type of tenant never use another. What would be a good way to separate these tenants and projects from each other?
Yep, I'm happy to take this one, John. So yeah, it's a good question. And so there is a concept in Octopus called tenant tags. A tag can be defined for exactly for these reasons, for your tenants, in order to differentiate them and make it easier for you to search and define them within Octopus. So for example, tenant tags can be used to define geographical reasons. So your tenants might be in different geographies, as mentioned during the presentation. One might be in the States, one might be in Europe, one might be in Australia. And using tenant tags, you're able to actually define that and stick it onto the tenant as required. And using our new tenant overview dashboard, as well as some of the new filters that we have, that's an easy way to also search and define the sort of tenants that you're sort of looking for. So in this case as well, you're obviously you can use tenant tags in order to represent your AWS accounts, and to use your tenant tags to also represent the software stacks that some of your other tenants are associated with as well.
That's awesome. So we are at 36 minutes past the hour. If you have any questions, we'll keep the Q&A open for approximately 1 minute. But in the meantime, this is me tap dancing as we go through the Q&A here. Just wanted to highlight some resources that we cited throughout the webinar. We have lots and lots of resources around this. First and foremost, just want to highlight the fact that we have our webinars, which is at octopus.com/webinars. We have our use cases that highlight a variety of scenarios that you can use tenants for. We have also our links to our features page as well. If you're at all curious, Ships is showing here the white paper that we've recently published around a modern view of multi-tenancy. We want to make sure that you're well facilitated to adopt tenants in a very meaningful way. All the videos that we have here, including the recording of this webinar, will be on our YouTube channel, which is in the link that you see there. Make sure to like and subscribe, as they say. And then if you want, you can check out our roadmap, roadmap.octopus.com. This should be a bookmark. Make it your homepage. Why not? So there's lots of great items that are coming. These are both planned, but also possibly under consideration features that we've highlighted throughout this webinar. All right, so that's enough of me tap dancing. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A pane, which is fine. So anyways, I'd like to wrap things up. Thank you very much, Ian and Ships. That was fantastic. And if you want, you can follow up with Ian and Ships with your questions around tenancies. Look at all the emojis. That's great. Awesome. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up this webinar. Thank you very much for your time and attention. We really appreciate it. And don't forget, we have other webinars coming up later this month and well into the fall season. So take care, everyone.